So welcome everybody, morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're calling from. My name is Kenneth Mubea with Digital Earth Africa as User Engagement Manager. I'm joined by my colleagues, Edward, Joseph, and Phoebe. Please, they can introduce themselves as we wait for others to connect.
Hello, everyone. My name is Boamah, based in Accra, Ghana, and I work as the technical manager for Digital Earth Africa. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Tuyishimire. I'm based in Kigali, Rwanda, and I work as user engagement manager at DE Africa. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Phoebe Odour. I work for the Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development based at RCMRD. So at RCMRD, I serve as the thematic lead for land use land cover activities and also the point of contact for the AfriGeo Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phoebe, Edward, and Joseph. This is a very exciting team. I'll give you an overview of Digital Earth Africa. I also wish to recognize Mrs. Janet Chapman from the Crowd2Map. I can allow her to talk.
Oh, hello. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here and really looking forward to it and learning how Crowd2Map can use some of these tools. Thank you.
Thank you so much for organizing this. Thank you so much. So I think giving the participants a few minutes. So the small, it will be a very small presentation on the Digital Earth Africa. And also there'll be a presentation by my colleague Phoebe on our gender inclusivity as well as part of our experience from the AfriGeo's perspective. Then also my colleagues Joseph and Edward will give a small demo on the platform. Then we'll allow a lot of time for Q&A so that we can get feedback from everyone in the meeting on what they have seen and what they wish to see platform do for their respective use cases. So just to get you started, the session is also recorded for purposes of sharing with others who are not able to join. Also, you'll see some subtitles below in case you're from French speaking, like my colleague Joseph. So this presentation is to give you an overview of Digital Earth Africa as a platform and one of its kind. So the agenda will be very brief, giving you an overview of the products that we have, the Digital Africa, the datasets, the platform, and we'll have a session on the demos and a Q&A. So on the introduction part, welcome everybody to this exciting presentation. Digital Africa is really a program here for us, and it's turning the data that we actually have from the various satellites into useful information and help us to understand the continent much better. So Digital Africa provides continental-wide Earth observation data from Landsat Sentinel, which I'll just show you. And these are aimed at helping in informing decision-making across the various sectors. So the platform also has developed a learning platform of which I've shown you the link, and I'll also share the presentation with everybody. Then also we've worked with amazing people in Africa to develop some of the stories to show impact, which the link is here. So on the other side is Digital Earth Africa is here to provide a routine service to provide this Earth observation to enable decision-making from the various sectors, government, CSOs, academia, leaving no one behind. And the various issues that we have from the continent is, as you know, land degradation, coastal erosion, urbanization, water resources, and agriculture and food security, depending on the different order and different circumstances. On this part, I wish to ask my colleague Phoebe to present.
Thank you, Mubea, for that. So part of the activities I also support include GEDSI, that is gender equality, diversity, and social inclusion. I am a member of the EDI subgroup for Geo to that effect. So basically, the issue surrounding GEDSI is really to make sure that we are being as inclusive as possible, taking into account that our activities influence different groups differently, and making sure that everybody who can be able to contribute is able to do so. So Digital Earth Africa is committed to make sure that our GEDSI agenda and strategy is being implemented. So this particular strategy has been endorsed by the Technical Advisory Committee, as well as the entire group for the Africa. So we're looking at how can we ensure that we are promoting geographic diversity throughout the continent. We are making sure that we are sensitive to the different genders and taking note that it doesn't necessarily have to be binary. There are also other gender consideration that needs to be taken into place, and also to see how we can be able to include, for instance, the youth, the women, which goes along in line with the Africa Agenda 2063 to make sure that the youth and the women are included. So Digital Earth Africa, to this effect, is making sure that we are developing strategy that will set us to be an example of those programs that have really endorsed inclusivity and are actually doing something about it, including also how we take into account the governance framework, the different teams that support Digital Earth Africa. Next, please. Next, please. Next. So we are basically looking at different catalysts of endorsing GEDSI. So part of that includes language. And we recognize that within our region, for instance, in Africa, we have two major languages across the different regions. So there's the Anglophone regions and also the Francophone regions, and there's also Portuguese. So we are trying to make sure that we are being sensitive to that. And this webinar already embodies that particular sense of how do we make sure that everybody is being included. We have translation in French, and all the Digital Earth Africa materials and dissemination activities, engagements are now being done in 2 languages. We're also making sure that we're being as much as possible having representation from different geographies. So making sure that we have regional GEDSI champions. So basically, like the structure for the Digital Earth Africa GEDSI is taking into account of those regional representation, because we understand that the issues for different regions may vary. So having this regional representation ensures that we are understanding the perspective of GEDSI in all these regions. Further, we're also taking into account that we have to be able to create materials that are specific to different groups of people. So we are developing materials that are addressing, for instance, the youth packaging in a way that they can be able to digest and use this platform to be more innovative. For instance, like in July, we had a group of different GEDSI groups coming together, basically to partake into the Open Data Cube symposium. So this was held in July, and ideally we took this platform as an opportunity to also promote STEM, to make sure that we're having different cadres in terms of age, in terms of career, participating in this particular event, and also looking at this as an opportunity to also have mentors for those who are more advanced in their career stages. Then we'll also be having certain specific programs looking at addressing very specific issues related to GEDSI. So how is it that, for instance, Digital Earth Africa is contributing and the products that we're developing are affecting the different groups of people? So we're having specific grants addressing those. we're also very keen to take into account that within this particular topic, there are also other groups that are addressing the same things. Group like the Youth Mappers, who are looking at how do we get the youth engaged in EO-based activities. There is Women in GIS Kenya, the Sisters of SAR, and Ladies of Lancet, just to mention. I'm sure there are so many other groups that are trying to address different inclusivity actions in different ways, and making sure that we're making connections to this, but also taking into account that there are also different programs across the globe that are doing different things to address GEDSI. So how then do we link to those particular groups and make sure that we can be able to learn from them, we can be able to share our experiences, and also to make them aware that we are actually being gender inclusive and EDI inclusive. Next, please. So some of the impacts that we are trying to achieve, we want to make sure that all the African countries are empowered to be able to use the resources within the digital art cube. So we're doing this through capacity development, developing like trainers of trainees to more or less advance the knowledge and skills that they're getting, and making sure that they're able to cascade this to their different programs and institutions. We're also looking at how can we best be more effective in terms of the activities that we are implementing, and also looking for ways of digital transformation. So basically, digital transformation is not a one program activity. It requires a lot of collaboration with different partners, and also see how we can be able to utilize research to improve lives. So this means that we have to develop case studies, and these case studies can be very small, within very small localities, and they can also be things that can be regional based, and things that can be adopted from one region to another. Next, please. So this is basically our GEDSI team. It's very small at this moment, but we are open to take in more people. As you can see, we have representation from East Africa, from West Africa, from Central, as well as South Africa. So we're open to take in more people to join the team. If you're interested, please reach out to us through Ken. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phoebe, for the great overview of what we're already doing and trying to connect with everybody, and also with these amazing audiences that will be able to connect with you and continue and do much, much more. So on the other side of this great workshop, I will continue to give you an overview of the Digital Earth Africa platform. We host over 2 petabytes of data, and this is hosted on the Amazon Web Service, which is now moved to Cape Town, providing us with a very great platform for everybody to connect from anywhere, from office to village. And we've developed some continental products like the water observation from space. We have the crop mask, and we also have the Sentinel Geomet, and our work is targeted on the various development agendas in Africa, including addressing sustainable development goals using Earth observation. In the context of Earth observation and sustainable development goals, we have the SDG number 2 on agriculture, SDG 6 on water, SDG 11 on urbanization, climate 13, 14 on mangroves, and 15 on land degradation and forest cover, respectively. On the side of this great work that we're doing, we are working with various partners in the continent. The program now will be hosted by the South Africa Space Agency in a few months. At the moment, we're also working with the Regional Center for Mapping for Resources for Development, RCMRD. This is where Phoebe actually works, and also she represents AfriGeo. And also we have colleagues from Geomet in Niger, AfriGist in Nigeria, CSE from Senegal. I think I have a colleague who joined from CSE, and also we are working with OSS in Tunisia, and also growing our partnerships. On the side of the datasets and products, I wish to give you a small summary. We host over datasets from various space agencies, which has been now processed into analysis-ready data. and hosted on the Amazon Web Service in Cape Town. This gives us an opportunity to serve Landsat data over the 7 years, Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2, and this is possible through the various platforms that we have, including the Map Explorer, the notebooks, and so on, which we'll present as examples. The analysis-ready datasets are here with us through Digital Earth Africa. As I mentioned earlier on, now we have access to Sentinel-2, Landsat data, Sentinel-1, also DEM from CRTM, and as well as ALOS Pulsar data. The products developed, which are continental, include the water observation from space, which gives you water variability from anywhere in the continent, now updated to 1980s, 1984, courtesy of Landsat 5. We also have Sentinel-2 and Landsat Geomet. So a Geomet product is one which has been corrected for cloud cover, and we'll be able to see some examples in a few seconds. And also we have a crop mask which supports food security for the whole continent. The water observation from space, it's a very good product which shows water variability at any time. This is based on Landsat data 30 meters. Initially, we had it for the last 9 years, but now we've updated to cover over 30 years, which is very nice. And we've worked with our partners to validate this data across the continent. The Geomet service has been a service which we provide the data, and it's been corrected for cloud cover, and it's very useful product. Like Sentinel-2, it's at 10 meters and Landsat at 30 meters. So it gives you an idea that you can actually go behind and see what changes have been there, water, vegetation, urbanization, even locate water bodies which have been disappearing, etc., as well as assess the water quality. An example of the Sentinel-2, as you can see, it's very conclusive for the whole continent as the first product, and we'll be able to see a small demo in a few seconds. This Sentinel-2 annual Geomet is very useful and powerful. For example, looking at the examples here, you could have an example of Ife in Nigeria, some national park in Zambia, also the Bahar Oasis in Egypt, the coast of Sierra Leone, as well as some parts of Nigeria. So anywhere in the continent, you can have a cloud-free mosaic, and you can imagine how powerful this is, and it's free for us to use. As we continue the continental products, we have the cropland, which has been in development. Now we have West Africa, Eastern South Africa, and the Northern Africa, and the Southern one will be ready in a few weeks or so. So it means that we've collected some reference data courtesy of our partners, and we've done some validation using the various tools like the Collect Earth, courtesy of our partner Savia, and doing some training and validation, be able to come up with a product that you can actually, everyone here can actually access and test and see if it's true for respective areas. An example of some of the applications from our partners, we have like the Ghana Agricultural Information Management System, courtesy of Big Data Ghana, who've used these tools in support of his G2, working with farmers in northern Ghana to show them how crops have been and how they're changing over time. And also a very useful tool in engaging with the various ministries like the Ministry of Food and Agriculture Statistics Division. So Digital Earth Africa is here with us, and it's possible for us to access it for free through the various platforms. Digital Earth Africa Map, there's a Sandbox, and some of these services, you can access them like from your QGIS or Esri through an API, which will be shown in a few. And then we have information about the notebooks that we use. And also the learning platform is ready for us to start using. And once you complete an online course, you get a certificate, which is really cool. As you continue with the platforms, this is how these platforms engage, that anyone from a specialist, technical person, or even a high-level person, or even a journalist can actually have a look at the platform and start using it, like the Digital Earth Africa map, which will be demonstrated by my colleague Joseph, and my other colleague Edward will demonstrate the Sandbox. Then we'll do a recap and see what other questions that will be asked by everyone in this room. So access, so we have this, the map services through the OGC services that I mentioned earlier on. And I wish to invite my colleague, Joseph, to present a small demo for us.
Thank you, Ken, and good morning or good afternoon to everyone. So, mine will be to present something about Digital Africa maps and to see how we can go through the Africa product interactively, and that doesn't require much science. It's a matter of visualizing, interpreting what we see. So, before I start, I can share my screen. Edward, could you see my screen?
It's coming, but you have to disable your video.
Okay, well, thank you. Could you see my screen?
We are waiting.
Still waiting?
Yes, I think the image is
Good.
coming now. Thank you.
Now can you see it?
Yes.
Oh, actually, I wanted to just how the interface of Digital Africa map looks, how it looks like, and as Ken said, we have several products. I can show you some of them. So we are using two satellites. We are using Landsat imageries and Sentinel imageries, and we have a lot of products. For example, we have this surface frequency from which we can have the daily surface frequency from both Sentinel and Landsat imageries. We can have also the annual Geomet that could help us to, those are mosaic the images, averaging all the pixel value and try to mask out for both Sentinel and also Landsat. And sorry for this. After we have also the surface temperature, we have the radar backscatter that could help us to measure especially some water in the NDVI. Here's the surface water, and we have daily, annual, and all-time surface water. We also have products on crop mask, and we have the crop extent. We have, as Ken said, we have for the Eastern Africa, we have the Western of Africa, the Northern of Africa, and others are coming soon. So all those products could be viewed on the Africa web map, and also we can visualize some of them. So for today, we'll be focusing on the annual Geomet to try to see how we can use it to monitor the vegetation cover or forest cover in a given area, and also to monitor the water change. So I've already spread this annual Geomet Sentinel-2 for one location in Tanzania. This is Morogoro city, and with this annual Geomet, we can see using the vegetation index. We are going to see how we can see if there is any change or not, and see how we can communicate the result to the audience being there or not. So now we have I've displayed like two images. The one is annual Geomet. This on the left, the annual Geomet of January 2017, and the value I've chosen, it has several values. You can see we can choose what values we need. We have the MAD, NDVI, and DWI, and many indices and many bands. But to monitor the vegetation change, we are using NDVI, that normalized difference vegetation index. This helps us to see, to measure the greenness of a vegetation area. The greener the area is, the higher the probability of having a higher vegetation coverage. And we'll be using this NDVI for image of 2017, but then he also have displayed the Geomet for images of 2020. And now we are going to compare the NDVI in that area. The idea is if there is an increase in NDVI between 2017 and 2020, it means that the vegetation cover or the vegetation greenness has been increasing in the area over time. So if you try to see, to compare, we have this compare tool in our map. Once it's checked, we can see, we can visualize, do a visual interpretation of the changes over those years. So we can see from 2017 to 2020, this image for 2017, for 2020, you could see that there has been an increase in NDVI. So this is 2017 on my left. No, sorry, this is on my left. It's 2017. Make sure that you see everything. On my right, it's 2020. So if you compare, try to compare, you could see 2020 is greener compared to 2017. So someone could say, what should be the ecological interpretation of these results? So it means that in Morogoro, over time, conservation or regreening the city efforts have been productive, and then DVI, the greenness of the city has been increasing over time. So it means that the city becoming more and more ecologically viable. So after doing this, we can share the results. You can tell a story to the audience that have been reviewing this NDVI, how it works, but you can use this the Africa maps and try to share, to create a story and tell the audience what we are viewing, so that they could themselves try to view the same story and try to have some comment interpretation. So we can say, we can tell a story, we can capture the scene. Money could take longer due to internet connectivity. That's why they played everything before. Oh, I can wait. I think it is, no, it's not responsive. I don't know why, but the idea behind was that through the Africa, we can analyze changes over time and also try to communicate the results to the audience. So I don't know why it is not responding this story. Oh. Yes, now it comes. So now I want to share to the audience what I've been doing. So let's say, let's call it our story vegetation cover change in Morogoro. So I can write something. I can say Morogoro is becoming greener from 2017 to 2020. So I can say my story. I can share my story. Now I can post it in the chat. Someone can click on the link, and whenever you click on the link, you can get the same map and you can try to work on it interactively and try to analyze the results I had. The same way I was viewing them, and you could try to do more analysis. So this was how to use this Geomet for vegetation cover monitoring and share the story, but also we can use the different tool to calculate the difference map, the difference in the DVI in that area, and just try to interpret which are areas with a higher increase in DVI or with a decrease in DVI. So the Africa map has also this difference too. This difference too could help us to calculate the difference over years. So we start from 2017 to 2020, and we can take a point and we'll be calculating the difference in DVI over time. Now we can generate a change detection. So this change detection map shows areas in blue because NDVI varies from -1 in red to 1 in blue. So blue areas correspond to increase in DVI, while red areas correspond in the decrease in DVI. But overall, you can see there is an increase in DVI in the whole Morogoro city. So, and this could help decision makers to evaluate the efforts in greening the city, and also try to classify themselves on the other global initiatives like their commitment in related to carbon sequestration and so on. So this was the first demo on NDVI, how we can use it, how we can monitor the greenness of a city or a given area. And now I can also jump to another example. So this one use of our annual Geomet, really available on the Africa maps for vegetation monitoring, but also we can go to water monitoring. So this lake is called Lake Sulunga in central Tanzania, and this lake is amazing because it can even disappear during dry years. So it's also known as the Bahi swamp because yes, it sometimes disappears. It seems like it's a swamp rather than a lake. So with this existing the Africa product, our annual Geomet, we can use what you call the modified normalized difference water index, MNDWI, to see how this was changing over years. So now we are going to try to compare the year 2017 and the year 2020 and see how was the lake changing over time and what might be some ecological implications and why. So I've already displayed the annual Geomet for 2017. You can see from January 2017, but also I've also displayed my annual Geomet of January 2020. So if I try to display one by one, you have an idea. If I try to display one by one, to have the idea of what's going on. Could you hear me, Ken?
Yes, Joseph, loud and clear.
Yeah, I can see. Yes, now it is playing. My internet is slow. Please be patient. This is the annual Geomet for showing the MNDWI for 2020. And one is not displaying. Why not? for 2017 is not displaying correctly. Yeah, now displays. So now we are going to compare those annual geomats, combine these water indices. One for 2017, you could see the lake was very, very small. And if I try also to display one for 2020, you could see that the lake was a bit wider. So if I display both indices, both years, you could see in 2017, the lake was smaller than it is in 2020. So what does it mean? What should be the ecological interpretation of this image? It means that the lake represents almost maybe 30 or 40% in 2017 compared to its size in 2020. And now, what might be the interpretation? That's where we went back and checked from the ground, and then that this Lake Sulunga has this character or this property of disappearing when it's becoming drier, and in some years it can disappear, like it was almost disappearing in 2017, but also it can also reappear when we have water season or water years, like in 2020, and the size could increase. So through this DE Africa dataset, we can monitor several natural phenomena and also try to go for field and to use the existing knowledge and literature to check what is really happening, or whatever we do, we need to validate them through the field knowledge. So the same way, I can also share. This time we share that story. Take this I was doing here. Take this my comparison here. I can share this link through the chat, and everyone who accesses the link sorry, my team is going slower, but when I share this, everyone in the link could try to click on it and view what I've been demonstrating now. And of course, due to time, I could hand over to Ken, and maybe if I have other time, I can also show some of the other demonstrations. Okay, thank you, Ken and the team.
Thank you, Joseph. As we handle the technical issues from your side, this is a very useful presentation. So once you stop sharing, you can try on your side, as I welcome my colleague Edward to present on the amazing Sandbox.
So my team's kind of crashing. Maybe I could leave and come back.
No worries, it will be resolved.
Thank you.
Edward, sir. So my colleague Edward Boamah will join and present on the Digital Earth Africa Sandbox. And then we'll do a small recap and also ask for questions from the amazing audience.
Okay, thank you, Ken, and thank you, Joseph, also. I'll be presenting on the Digital Earth Africa Sandbox. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet. We have to. Okay, now you can try.
Okay, let me stop and share again. Okay. Is it live?
I can see it, but thank you.
Thank you, Ken. So what you are seeing currently is the Sandbox digital health interface. So at the top here, we have some information that we give out both in French and both in English. So depending on the background of your language, whether from a Anglophone country or a Francophone country, we actually make sure that these two users will actually benefit from the program. So if you visit sandbox.digitalhealth.africa, this is actually the initial phase that will show up. By clicking on the login or sign up, it will load up the login page for any person who wants to enter into it. If you don't have an account, simply go to the sign up session and provide these details. That's the username, the name that you use, the email, and the password. Please provide a valid email address, because after the registration, there will be a verification account that will send to that email address for you to validate it. So if you use an email, any email, an invalid email, you won't be able to get access to the Sandbox. So the registration is very simple, and once you are validated, you'll be able to log on to the Sandbox that is shown. So let me change my screen quickly. Okay, so once you have validated and log in, you'll be able to have access to the data and log on to the platform as you currently see on my session. So this is the Sandbox interface that you have access to in Digital Health Africa. The memory located for every user is the 16 gig RAM and the 32 gig. So depending on the area that you want to work with, you can choose between these type of memories that you would like to use within. With the Sandbox, once you have access to the Sandbox, you can actually do an additional data manipulation of the data sets that we've actually currently talked about. And within that, you'll be able to do, you can actually go beyond what you can actually do at the map session. For instance, during Joseph's presentation, he made mention of Lake Sulunga. Within the maps, you can actually do the comparison and even share it. But when it comes to the Sandbox, you can actually go beyond it and even generate a graph or even an animation of that particular thing that you saw on the maps. Not only that, with it, you can actually do a lot of complication analysis with the data sets that we have on the platform. So with the usage of the Sandbox, defaultly, so you have to have knowledge in Python to be able to develop these algorithms. But Digital Health Africa does not actually have the core developers in mind. We want everybody to have access and use this platform. So whether you have knowledge in Python programming or not, you will be able to use the Sandbox platform. And by the end of this presentation, you actually know how easy it would be for any user to log on to the Sandbox and also manipulate the notebooks that we have within the Sandbox. So not taking much further, on the left side of the panel is where we have the folders guide. So you have the beginner's guide. This beginner's guide is a list of notebooks that have information on some of the things you can actually use the notebook, the Sandbox for. So within you have series of notebooks from 1 to 8, and even if you don't have much knowledge in Python, going through this series of notebooks, it will actually give you an idea of how to create your own notebook that you are using. Then we have the data sets. The data sets that we have on the platform, how do you actually access these data sets? If you are new to the platform, or the Sandbox. Once you enter into the, once you log on and enter into the dataset folder, you'll be able to have access to how to connect to the datasets that currently we have. So some of this is the crop plan extent, the fractional cover, the Landsat collection, Sentinel 1 and 2, the water observation from space. How do you actually access these datasets when you are using this platform? The datasets notebooks actually gives you guidance on how to do that. Then we have also the real world examples. As part of the discussion, you come into the real world examples and see some of the notebooks that are actually there. With the real world examples are notebooks that you can actually pick it up and use it at a particular area to see what has happened over time. So within these notebooks, we have the bent area mapping, we have the crop health, we have the machine learning with ODC, we have the water extent, we have the vegetation anomaly, seasonal, and also have the phenology analysis using both radar and optical. And all of these are within the Sandbox when you load it afresh. Then we also have the use cases. So the use cases are notebooks that we are that we are working together with our partners to develop, or champions. So if you have a nice use case about a place that you would like to use the notebook to develop, then after that, after doing your verification and everything, you want the notebook to be publicly for others to also use. This is where we actually put all of them at. So right now, we have 2 use cases that's available. We have the Lake Baringo grazing and the surface mining screening. If you log on to the Sandbox, all these things are actually available for use. Then, how do I actually use these notebooks that are there? For this discussion, you actually go through 5 different notebooks and how you can actually manipulate the data without actually having enough details on how to program in Python. So the launcher will be here. Then the first notebook that I would like us to go in and see is the water observation from space using the water extent, using the water observation from space. From the map session, you notice that the water observation from space actually help us to measure the frequency of water that has occurred over a period of years. So you have the historical one which is actually based on Landsat, the Landsat collection. So this is a typical example of how the notebook actually looks like. Once you open it, at the top section, you find the meaning, like the title for the notebook. Then you give you the background information, why this notebook was developed and what are some of the things this notebook can actually help you to monitor. Then give you a description of the water observation from space and the other information. So to run the particular notebook, what you have to do is to make sure that each cell is loaded. And to load a cell, you just click on that particular cell. Then using this play button, you click on it, that particular cell will be executed for you. And a number will come in front here. Once the number comes in front, that means it has been loaded. So right now, let's execute this particular cell that you are seeing by clicking on this play button. And once I click the play button, you notice that the number has changed, meaning I've already executed it and it's good to go. Before, if you skip a cell, for instance, if you want to run the cell 3, but you skip cell 2, and cell 3 depends on cell 2, you are going to get an error. So it's always good to go through one after the other. So how do you actually specify the area of interest that you want to work with? Because you are interested in the Lake Sulunga and you want to know the historical trend using the water observation, the good thing is you have to know the latitude and the longitude of the area that you want to work with. Once you change the latitude and the longitude of the area that you want to work with and you run through all the process, the notebook will actually run everything for you. So for this particular area that we are is the Lake Sulunga, and we want to know the historical trend of what has happened to Lake Sulunga over the period of years. So I will provide the latitude and the longitude and the start here and the end here. Then you move on to load the data from the cube, which actually generates results. Then you will print some of the images out to see how it looks like. So this is the 5 years interval images that we printed out. And within this one, you just generate the historical animation from 1990 up to 2020. So as you can see with the time slider here, you'll be able to generate this animation, download it, and share it with anybody that you want to share. So this gives you the animation or the historical view of Lake Sulunga over the last 30 years. Then the next one is you also be able to observe the changes in time series format. So from 1990 to 2021, you're able to see how the lake has been increased and decreased in size. Of course, sometimes because due to cloud in some of the images, sometimes some part of the water body actually chops off, but that not necessarily. Most of the time, most are observed, and you can actually use that one also as a threshold to actually get only the good images that you want to have. So this is the time series for Lake Sulunga from 1990 up to 2021. Not only that, based on the image also, you can actually know the time period where we had a least water observed and the highest water observed from the script, which is actually between the least water observed was in 1992 and the maximum water observed was in 2021. So this one actually brings up question like, why was there least water observed in 1992? Was it that there was a lot of clouds, or did Lake Sulunga actually experience a kind of drought? So having these images in mind will actually help you to do the analysis for those two different years. Not only that are you able to, but you can also compare between two different years. That is, with this one, you compare between 2019 and 2021. And this is the image for 2019 and 2021. And through here, you'll be able to get the extent of these two images. So as you can see, the 3.19 kilometers square has been watered throughout. So anytime the images has been observed, but 12.18 kilometers square has actually, in 2019, there wasn't water there when it was being observed, but right now in 2020, water has actually come up. So having these images at your hand actually raised a lot of questions to investigate what is actually happening. And with doing this, you don't actually have to be a developer or a core programmer to be able to do that. All that you can do is to change the latitude and the longitude for the area of interest that you want to work with. Then after that, either you go through it step by step using this play button, or you go to the kernel and click restart and run all. By doing that, you'll be able to execute it for the whole of the area that you want to work with. The next one that I also wanted to talk about was the same water extent. The previous one, we were using the water observation from space, but this particular notebook uses the Sentinel-2 imagery. And it also follows the same approach, whereby you actually have to execute it all from a cell by cell. Then you have to also change the latitude and longitude, just as we talked about, and you get the shape of Lake Sulunga. So the rest will just follow the process, whereby you use the MNDWI. Then you can also get the trend of the water body from 2016, quarterly 2016 up to 2021 March. So as you can see, this is what has actually happened to the lake over the period of time. Then you can also create a nice animation. So the first one was dealing with water observation from space, and this one is dealing with Sentinel-2. And the indices that we are using is the MNDWI2, which is actually also great in identifying water from the satellite imagery. Then based on this, you can also calculate the size of Lake Sulunga from 2017 up to date. And as you can see, from 2020 January coming, the size of Lake Sulunga has been constantly increasing. In terms of the surface area, it has been increasing from 2020 coming. Then you can still do the comparison between two different years. So this one, we did a comparison between March 2029 and also March 2020. That's quarterly comparison. And as you can see, Lake Lunga has actually increased in size. So having these two images, one from water release from space and one from Sentinel, you can also compare it to see what is actually happening over the period of time. So these are some of the things you can actually work with the Sandbox. The next, so there are a lot of notebooks, and the next one that I also talk about is the urbanization change. This is unsupervised urbanization, and this one is actually using the product, which is the Geomet Sentinel 2 Geomet that has been created for the whole of Africa. And because it's based on Sentinel, it starts from 2017 up to 2020. And you also have the semi-Geomet. So still going through the process, all these existing notebooks that are there, follow through the process and change the latitude and longitude of the area that you want to work with. So this is Tabora in Tanzania that you wanted to use the unsupervised urban change detection to see what you can do. And the years that you wanted to do comparison was between 2018 and 2019. So we load the Geomet for these two different months, and you can see them here. Then the next one is to use the NDC indices, that's the Enhanced Normalized Difference Impervious Surface Index, to do the classification, to be able to bring out the urban change that has actually happened between 2018 and 2019. And we get the histogram from it. Then the next one is to identify the threshold. So based on the threshold, you can also be changing the threshold. But here we are applying the threshold, OS2 threshold, just to help us identify to differentiate between the build-up areas and the non-build-up areas. So based on that, it's able to get us a figure like this. Then you plot it out, and you notice that there's the change between 2018 and 2019. Then you'll be able to get the urban growth map here. So you have the urban growth, you have the urban decline, and you have the remain urban. Because this is an unsupervised classification, based on the reflectance that will come out of the images, what is going to use it for the calculation. But even that, you can also vary the threshold at this area. So depending, right now the threshold that the system automatically chose was -0.32. But you also make it your own, you can change it to 0 so that you can vary it. Because it's an unsupervised classification, you can vary it to get the answers from the satellite image, to get the urban change from the imagery. What about if I have my own data sets and I want to do the classification based on my own end? That can also be done using the machine learning with the Open Data Cube. So this one is, you have your own data sets. You've actually picked data on the ground. You know areas which are built up and areas which are not built up. Is it possible to do this supervised classification on the platform? Yes, it's possible to do that. And we already have an existing notebook there, which is machine learning with ODC, that is currently available. So with the machine learning with ODC, the same procedure, we give you the title, the background information, the description and of how the notebooks works. Then you can go through it using the play button to execute it line by line. Or you can go through the kernel, restart and run all kernel, which will actually execute all the kernel for you to see the output of it. How does this one works? Because you already have a label for the area that you want to work, you provide the training data to the system. Then you also provide the latitude and the longitude of the area that you want to work with. With this particular tutorial, the training data that is currently available is Kampala, which is actually in Uganda. So that's what we are going to use. Then you specify the time zone which you want to use the classification for. Having given the training data and the latitude and the longitude, the rest is just to run through the process. And once you run through the process, the system will actually do all the calculations, the training data and the test data using this machine learning notebook. And at the end of the day, based on the results that you get, it will actually be able to give you this decision tree on how it was, based on the data, how it was able to use the data to do the classification for you. So the training data that you provided was urban and not urban. So having these two training data, the system will actually use it to do the classification of the imagery. Then after that, based on the data, to be able to predict and let you know areas that are water and areas that are not water. And the great thing is, after that, you can actually export the data as a predicted.tif file, whereby you can actually use it in a different system. For instance, if you want to import it into ArcGIS or QGIS to make it more nicer, prepare a graph and share it with others, you can actually export it using the right_cog to do that prediction. So as you can see, with having the predicted areas using the data that we have, you can actually see that the satellite image actually mimic the true colors of what is happening. We are only interested in the water building. So this is also one of the things you can actually also do on the Sandbox. The other one that actually also makes it more interactive, we also have a notebook called the Crop Health, which you can actually also use it to monitor health of crops. And this one uses the NDVI. What actually comes with this particular one is interactive, meaning you can actually work with it by just click and drop. Previously, what we are doing, we just have to specify the latitude and the longitude, and it actually do all this analysis for you. But with this interactive one, you can have the chance to click on this polygon, then you draw around a particular area. Then after drawing, you see that the trend will actually come out for you for the area that you want to do. And you can do it for not only one area, but for different areas to do the comparison. So all these notebooks are available. So you click on the draw, then you can draw as many polygons depending on the area to get the graph of those images. And you can actually do all those comparisons for the area that you are working with. The good news is not only is it about scripting, but you can have this interactive feel. So you don't actually have to, having knowledge in Python would be great, because you can, beyond this, you can do a lot of analysis with the data. But if there's no basic knowledge in Python, you can come and work with the existing tools that is already available on the platform and be tweaking the latitude and the longitude for the area of interest to get your results on what you want to receive or what you want to get from it. Looking at the data, there's also another one called the Explorer.Digital.Africa. The Explorer actually gives you information on, the Explorer also gives you information on the metadata that we have of all the products that is available. So as you can see, we have the crop marks, the easting, and the range. So for instance, if I click on the crop marks northern, it will give us the metadata in relation to that particular area that we have. So as you can see, this is the metadata of the information, and it starts from 2019 July. So we only have the crop marks for only 1 year. If you go to the Landsat 5 and click on it, go to Landsat 5 and click on it, you also be able to get the information of Landsat 5, and it gives you the year from 1984 to November 2021. One thing about this is once you click on the image, it will give you the extent. It will give you the extent of the areas that this satellite image is also covered, and the code that you can also use it to access it in the Sandbox. From the beginning of the Sandbox, let me go back to the Sandbox again. From the beginning of the Sandbox, I talk about having two users, Francophone and Anglophone. All the information within the Sandbox is in English. Can you also change, apart from the notebook, you can also change all these settings to French. How it can be done? By going to the settings and going to language and clicking on the French. Once you click on the French, it will refresh the page, and all the information that you want to, all the information will be changed to French, apart from the notebooks, because the notebooks are already developed in English, they will come in the form of English. But Datasets Africa is working on it to make sure that not only are you going to get the explanation for these images, for the select images in English, but you also can have it in French. So as you can see, all the settings here, everything here has actually changed to English. Everything on the platform has changed to French, sorry, with the exception of the folders that are still in English. But nevertheless, very soon, with this explanation, all this information, you're going to have the version in French also very soon. Let me change back to English. So I'll be able to go through the platform also. So you can do that by just clicking on that particular side and working with it. Okay. Okay, so the next one that I wanted us to go through was some of the use cases that we're actually working with partners and champions. So if you have a use case that you want to develop on the Sandbox and you might need support, you can reach out to us at the help desk at datasetsafrica.org, which will be posted in the chat. And with there, based on what you want to do, you can actually use it to develop a use case around that particular area. So with this one in relation to Lake Baringo grazing, is that there were a lot of things that was done. We did the water extent, the vegetation phenology 1D plot, and also the fractional cover. We just wanted to identify areas within the conservancy whereby they can actually move their animals around. So having this information actually gave them idea of how these conservancies are performing over time. So within this, they'll actually know that, okay, within this period, having this historical trend of map, within this period, they can actually be moving the grazing of animals around to actually help them to know, how to move them around. And this was actually one of the great use cases, because it will actually help them to know how the vegetation trend looks like, and it helped them to move their animals around. So that's some of the things that you can actually use the Sandbox to work, and actually you can use it to actually do a lot of things. So if you have anything that you can go through the Sandbox, play around with the data that is available in the real world folder, look through the beginner's guide, and also the data sets. We also have a learning platform, that's learn.datasetsafrica.org. That is also available and also be posted in the chat, which actually also gives you enough introduction to how to use both the maps, the Sandbox, the Explorer, and even accessing it with external platforms such as QGIS or ArcMap. All of them is actually available at that session, and you can do more. So this is where I would like to end my presentation, and I'll hand it over to Ken.
Thank you so much, Edward, for this great presentation. We've had an overview of the platform, the DA maps, and now the Sandbox. And I wish to see how we can get everybody involved. As a small recap, then I'll allow for question and answer. Then I'll also allow some messaging from some of our key stakeholders from the youth mappers. So ways of getting involved is that you could start with a learning platform, which is the link has been shared. And also you can be able to be involved in the various use cases, and et cetera, et cetera. So the example which was talked about by Edward, I wish just to highlight it a little bit. It was a study to help in how we can assess pasture, and also monitoring vegetation and water from space. And this was information which was available for a conservancy agency in Kenya. And also at the same time, they were trying to relocate some giraffes from this Lake Baringo Central Island. And the information was very useful for that activity. Then also on the example of food security, we have examples of the crop mask for the whole of the continent. And this is just some examples of some crop circles in Egypt, how you can actually monitor them from time from space using Sentinel-2 data. And you can even generate an animation, which is very useful as we communicate with the various persons, since we are a group of youth. Also, I wish to move the session to also how we can co-develop use cases together. We have the example of cotton farming in Tanzania with the National Bureau of Statistics. Here we were working with the National Bureau of Statistics, providing information and assessments on the crop farming, cotton farming. And at this particular case, there was a workshop, Nane, where the persons were engaged with the minister and they were able to show the changes over time. So this was showing how we can present from the different persons to high-level policymakers and get some actions. Then the other example, which was the same on the Lake Baringo, was that we were able to work with our various partners to document this in a documentary for BBC. And this is the link here, and also we'll share the presentation with everybody. Then also on the same, we have how you can use the platform to monitor forest fires. This is very rampant in some of the mountains, especially like now we have the use case with Mount Kenya, and we are working with Eric Lawrence from Regional Center for Mapping, and we were able to see how the changes are occurring over time. And this was a very useful using Sentinel-2 data. Also, Lake Sulunga was mentioned by Yosef, and if you take this particular example into the Sandbox, you can be able to generate very good products that you can even show animation over time. And this in particular case was a use case developed by the National Bureau of Statistics, and they were able to go to the field just a few kilometers from Dodoma, and they're able to engage with the people on the ground, showing them that these are the times we saw flooding, and these are the times we had drought, and the people on the ground could actually continue and say actually it's true. So also demonstrates the value of citizen-generated data, which is very key for the youth mappers and everyone in this particular audience. We also have this particular use case in the Okavango, specifically in Lake Ngami in Botswana. We discovered with our colleague, Dr. Kelebogi, based at the University of Botswana, that the lake has been changing over time, and there was some times that it was mentioned, and we actually see, like from this generated image, that sometimes it experienced some water, then over time there was some occasional droughts and high levels, and we compared this with some rainfall data that was collected in the different stations, and we could actually correlate this. So also gives us the value that using Earth observation and using the Digital Earth Africa platform, we can actually investigate some of the phenomena and work closely with the people on the ground who have local knowledge and give us more information. Also, we also see how we can get involved in the Digital Earth Africa Capacity Development Program. Is that also we developed the learning platform, which is on this link, which has been shared here. And as part of this, we have 6 modules. One of them is in the introduction, looking at the data sets and et cetera, et cetera. And also after you've been trained, you received a certificate of participation. Also, we normally have weekly live sessions every Wednesday, 11 a.m. GMT time, just to connect with the various persons across the continent to hear what they're doing and also share some of the amazing stories and as well as challenges and so on and so on. Also, we're expanding our user community. Just as this workshop we have over 1,000 persons who've been registered. Many people have gone through the online training program. And I know from this call, most of you will at least have an attempt. And then also you can stay in contact with us through the various live sessions. Then also Digital Earth Africa has developed a very good help desk that you can connect with us, have some more information about the knowledge, communities, and also sign up and also give us where there's an issue. You can raise it and we can respond as soon as possible. Also, as part of this workshop, it's good to have shared the link to collect some of the views, which is important. And this will also help us to improve this workshop and also see how we can engage further with each one of you on a personal level. Then also, as part of acknowledgements, we are working with various partners in the continent, from GEO, Ghana Statistical Service, and also our partners also in this call from CAC Senegal, SANSA, Afrigist, RCMRD, and so on and so on. And also more specifically to acknowledge the great work which is done by the youth mappers. Some of them are in this call. I'll just call upon them to talk a little bit as they give us some feedback as we wait for everyone to say something. So I think I could start with, we had someone from, I remember I had Ingrid on the call, but maybe she dropped. Then also Mubea left, but I also have Dugain from CSC. Maybe she can say something about the work they're doing at CSC in Senegal and the work she's doing with the agenda work. Bonjour Dugain. Okay. Otherwise, since I'm not able to get her, now it's time for us to raise our hands on any comments that you might have for this presentation. Thank you, everybody. Lisong, any update from your side from CSE? So thank you then, everybody. There was a small demo by Edward.
Yeah, hello, Ken. Yes, let me add this also to it. Digital Africa, all the notebooks that we have is actually open and freely for everybody. And when you move on to our GitHub page that has actually been posted in the link, you have access to all the works that's actually on the Sandbox. So it's something that everybody can actually go there and also look through these openly, freely accessible notebooks that we have also at our end. It's at the GitHub that's been posted in the chat. So this is the GitHub page that I'm talking about. So all the codes and everything that you have also is also freely available for anyone to have access to and use it at their end, which is also on GitHub. So recently there was a use case development that was done in relation to Lake Chad. That was done in relation to Lake Chad, and it actually worked using this notebook that we talked about. And the interesting thing that within that notebook was the ability to actually run it for areas that are actually that is difficult for people to actually get access to it. And I just want to open it and talk to you about how that notebook was actually developed with one of our partners, that's Agreement from Niger. So within 2 years, that's between 2019 and 2020, they wanted to find out how they can actually monitor Lake Chad without going there. And Datasets Africa actually also comes up with data set from chips. That's monthly rainfall data from chips. And having that monthly rainfall data, we're able to actually monitor how Lake Chad behave over the 2 periods that we have. That's 2020 till within the year of 2020. So I want to share my screen. Just okay. So this is the Lake Chad monitoring between 2020 for the year of 2020 to see how actually it has been performing. And with this, you're able to actually see the trend of the chart from January 2020 to December 2020. And with that, one great thing that we did was we included a catchment area for Lake Baringo, for Lake Chad. And with this, you'll be able to see the rainfall trend, which is actually currently available on the platform, the rainfall trend from January to December for that particular year. And we wanted to see how the rainfall trend actually contributes to the increase in size of the lake. So from here, you're able to deduce that once it starts raining heavily, the lake, that the discharge doesn't actually make the rain become increase in size at a go. It actually takes time because the catchment area is actually big. There's a catchment area, and when it rains, it actually takes some time for all of it to move before it actually reach Lake Chad at this area. And with this one, they were able to know the peak season for their rainfall, which they have one seasonal rainfall, which also coincides with what is actually happening on the ground. And know that, so from there, from October going, that's when you actually start to see that the Lake Chad actually start to increase again in terms of the size that is actually happening between those two. So this use case was a use case that was actually developed to monitor the extent of the lake. And once this notebook has been passed out to be made available publicly for everyone to also use it at their end, to monitor some of the lakes that they currently have at their end, to see how the rainfall data is actually contributing to the expansion of the lake, or is it that right now currently there's not much rain, the lake of the size of the lake will also depreciate. So these are some of the use cases that have actually been going on, and there's a lot which is also going on. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Edward, for that presentation. I hope, Lisong, are you able to talk on behalf of your colleagues? It's just an opportunity for you to talk, but in case you are busy, it's fine. Okay, thank you so much. Also, any question from attendees or comments? We had nominated Laura to talk on behalf of Youth Mappers, if she's able to do that.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. I hope this session was interesting, and probably we've gotten a chance to learn more about the Digital Earth Africa platform, the tools and products. I guess for the Youth Mappers Network, we are thankful to the DEA team for taking their time to share with us today. Loved how the sessions were so diverse, from sharing about the maps tool to the Sandbox environment, to some of the use cases, and even additional activities of the general DEA network, such as the GEDSI initiative. So thankful for that. I hope my fellow colleagues and students from the Youth Mappers Network have found this helpful. I guess just wondering, I think I dropped off for a few minutes there, but just wondering, for the 6-week training course, how can someone sign up? And also, is there support for that? So if someone is taking the 6-week self-paced course, and they need some kind of support, how do they reach out to the team for that? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. There's a link which I've put on the chat for the training.digitalartafrica.org for the online training, which will change sometime next week. But before then, the 6 week means that an expert like you can actually finish it in one day. It's very nice, very easy, just clicking next and next. And it's a very good way of starting. And also you get a certificate of attendance, which is very nice for any of us who's here. Yes, thank you so much, Laura. I'm also joined by Regine from CSE. She wishes to say something.
Hello, hi Ken, how are you? Hi everyone, and thank you for the presentation, which is very interesting, and thank you for all to participate in the Youth Mappers training. I just would like to inform you about the next introductory section that will happen with CESE on at the first week of November. And we are very pleased to inform all the participants in this training session to participate in the introductory session led by CESE. And it will be very interesting, and we will learn more about the GEDSI in CESE and GEDSI in Africa. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Eugene. Might you be having a link to this workshop? You can post on the chat, just for the purpose of those who've attended. Thank you.
Yeah, we will waiting for the link, and we will send out the link as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Merci.
Any other comments from any participant? So at least I'm very happy we have participants from all over the world. So it means also beyond Digital Earth Africa. This program has been a very good program that has encouraged other Digital Earth programs. Like, for example, we have Digital Earth Pacific. Binyam Dele, Salam Nai.
And you know,
Hi,
are you listening to me, guys?
yes, Binyam. You're calling from Youth Mappers, Habesha.
Yeah, I'm Youth Mappers chapter leader of Addis Ababa Science and Technology University. It has been a great session and great time being with you guys. I learned a lot of things. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Welcome so much. I'm a signalo. Welcome so much.
But I was like,
Amarenya tinish.
okay. And this is Marco.
Okay, thank you. Welcome so much. Any comment from anyone? Any last comments? At least we have one from Janet, if she has one, and also thanking her for organizing this workshop for everybody. Janet, you have the last microphone. I think maybe she's not able to hear us. Otherwise, any comment from my panelists? Joseph, Edward?
Yes, Ken. Okay, so we thank everyone also for attending this webinar session with us, and we are happy to also support anyone who wants to use the platform and having any challenges. Feel free to reach out to us on the help desk at digitalartafrica.org, and we'll be there to support you along the journey also. So thank you, everyone. Over to you, Ken.
Yes, Joseph, the last word is yours as we finish the workshop early.
Thank you, Ken. Actually, I want to say to the audience that we always have a live session every Wednesday at I can say at 2 p.m. time of Nairobi. So it's GMT +3, and it is open to everybody. Anyone could attend, could also present some of the findings from the Africa and some challenges and opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ours is to thank everybody. We'll be able to connect with you from this workshop, especially that if you registered, we'll send you the workshop materials and we'll connect with you. And also thank you, New, for sacrificing your time this day to join us. Also recognizing my colleague, Akubia, connecting all the way from Deutschland. Welcome, everybody. And I wish to end here so that we can connect another time, God willing, inshallah. Bye-bye and see you soon.
Bye. See you soon. Thank you.
Okay, bye.